Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video. This is another Lost in the Pond reaction, and this one is 8 ways British and American education systems are very different. And I did sort of a video kind of similar to this from another channel, but a lot of people were saying it was very incorrect in a lot of ways. So I've switched it up and I've chose Lawrence, Lost in the Pond. I mean, because from what I've seen in the comments and from what I've just sort of seen on his channel, his sort of, I've said sort of a lot, his videos seem to be pretty sort of close to reality, or like a lot of them seem to be like correct and a lot of people agree with, as opposed to the video that I saw beforehand. I guess he sort of looked into this not from his justice perspective, but also like sort of researching, etc. I don't know though, but yeah, man, let's get into this. Shout out to Lawrence again. Links in the description to his channel. Show him some love. I mean, if you enjoy my reactions to his videos, you'll obviously enjoy his videos. I'm sure all of you know who he is already, but if you don't, links are all there. But shout out to my Instagram. Links in the description for that as well, and my Twitter. We're closing in on 7k on my Instagram, so I'd appreciate you helping get to that. Same for my Patreon, links are there if those interested. And I mean, yeah, let's just jump into this, man. I do love these reactions because I like seeing like the differences between things that I've actually experienced. Obviously school, everyone's experienced school, but like, yeah, I wonder, especially from the video that I saw before, a lot of incorrect things. I'm interested in seeing what differences there genuinely are.
In America,
genuinely are. I can't talk.
they're all about their Latin, so honours are signified by phrases like cum laude,
That would have been a loud bang.
magna cum laude, cumulonimbus, or cactus priculus. Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to education. Before we get underway, some disclaimers. Britain is made up of 3 countries, England, Scotland and Wales, while the UK also includes Northern Ireland. Because each country has a separate education system operating under a different government, comparing British and American approaches could take as long as a doctoral program. Therefore, when it comes to Britain, I'm going to focus on the country of my own schooling, England. For more details on the other countries, see my links in the description. Furthermore, some of the finer details of US education can vary by state, school district and school. So for some things in today's video, there will be exceptions that prove the rule. Basically, there's going to be a part 2. Ahead of his election victory in
Wait, is there a part 2? Maybe there is. I mean, if there is, I have to look for it.
1997, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair summed up his political priorities with 3 words: education, education, education. The problem was, he didn't specify in what order. Schools in England date back to about the year 598. They were introduced by Augustine of Canterbury.
I had this conversation with my family the other day. Like, I went to my grandparents for his birthday, and I sort of brought up the when does schools like start? Like, I don't actually know. When you think about it, when does school start? Obviously, he says here. I guess it was a lot different back then. Only a few people could go. Nowadays, everyone has to go if you're like of the age. And I mean, I guess it's changed a lot over the years. But I don't know. I always just wondered when school was created. Same with uni and like college, like university. When did university sort of, when was that, when did that become a thing?
Who, like many in the 6th century, resembled a sketch of somebody from the 6th century. On the other hand, the first public school in America was the Boston Latin School. It was modelled after a grammar school in Boston, England, and among its notable alumni was Benjamin Franklin. History notes that he didn't actually graduate and quit the school at the age of 10, and he didn't even have a Nintendo Switch. Fast forward to 2020, and today's kids haven't got a clue where the word fast forward comes from. But also, those kids, like us before them, are cogs in an educational machine that has been worked and refined for hundreds of years. Except on either side of the pond, that machine is a different make and model. In fact, English and American education is very different. As somebody who was schooled the English way but married an American teacher, I'm going to take a look at those differences. Before we look at the education
big old chestnut, man. This old chestnut. Yeah, I mean, I know this is a thing very, very sort of British uniform.
Cycle. Let's talk about one of the most striking visual differences between English and American schools: uniforms. In the United States, most schools don't require one. Brits like me know this because we've seen Saved by the Bell, but that doesn't give us the whole picture. American schools do enforce a dress code. This varies by school, but in general, you might see kids wearing things like khakis and polo shirts, you know, basically anything worn by 55-year-old professionals called Scott. There's typically no requirement that these clothes have to match from student to student. And while some private schools do require uniforms, this is the exception that proves the rule. In England, everything's flipped, and I'm not just talking about the roads. 90% of English schools require pupils to wear identical uniforms.
Wait, some schools don't in Britain? I thought they all did.
Hogwarts without all the fun stuff. And what's fascinating is there's no government mandate for schools to do this. They just do it. It really makes me wish I'd put forth a more vociferous protest against the autocratic infrastructure of my school when I was
And the crazy thing about that, he's just said the government don't even decide this. The schools decided it. But they'll exclude you if you don't wear certain things. I'm not lying. I would wear, so you'd have to wear black shoes. I would wear fully black Vans or fully black Air Force. And I mean, they're black. And I mean, you wear them in school and you say I'm not changing my shoes because they'll have shoes there that'll make you wear. Shoes that have been left from students from years ago and they stink and everything. Or they'll send you home to change your shoes. And if you just say no, they'll literally exclude you for the day or whatever. It's absolutely nuts. It's ridiculous how they get away with it. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I guess it's getting you ready for the real world or working in jobs, but it just baffles me how they can get away with it. And it's not actually a government thing. They've just sort of shithoused it. Probably a way for them to get money as well, to be honest, because they sell the uniforms and get money from that, I'm pretty sure.
5, but we all have regrets. It's true that both countries employ a numbering system to denote a child's educational development. In England, this is measured by year, and in America, by grade. And there's a slight difference in how this plays out. England's numbering system is always one higher than America's. So, for example, English kids in year 2 are the same age as American kids in the first grade. And this is the same all the way up to year 13/12th grade. This doesn't mean that English schools randomly hold children back a year. It just means that the English year 1 serves the same purpose as America's kindergarten. On the whole, really? English and American...
So kindergarten lasts quite a long time because in England we've got nursery, we've got playgroup, which is when you're really young, nursery, which is when you're pretty young but you're starting to sort of develop, then reception, then year 1, then year 2, then it goes on. I guess kindergarten just sort of covers that whole thing.
American kids attend school between about 5 and 18, but that's not the entire story. Even before all of this, there's a 2-year warm-up session.
Oh, he's just fucking...
Between 3 and 5, when children still can't do easy stuff like order pizza or filter spreadsheets, parents in both countries have them sent off to something called preschool. And instead of getting punished for their abject lack of ability, they're rewarded with free playtime. Madness. Except in England, we don't normally call it preschool. This period is...
so kindergarten doesn't cover that whole thing then. I'm speaking
broken up into what is known as nursery and reception year. Confusingly, reception year is technically the first year of school and year 1 is the second year. Among other things, this explains why I'm so bad at maths.
Elementary.
In America, the school where children advance to next is known as elementary, but to English people, that's just a word that Sherlock Holmes uses when he wants to be condescending. This period of education is where children from the ages of about 6 to 11 are first introduced to the broad range of knowledge they'll need to succeed in life. So, handling basic arithmetic, developing spelling ability, and explaining grass stains. In England, schools handling this period of primary education are known as primary schools, but in America, primaries are a series of state elections for nominating a party candidate which occur roughly every week forever. And then there's the average class size. In the US, the average class size for self-contained elementary classes is about 22.
Same here, isn't it? Maybe it's a bit more. We had 2 classes in my primary school. I think they were 25 maybe?
Just saying that out loud, I can already hear the laughter from teachers in states where the average is much higher. For instance, Utah, where it's 27. As it happens though, 27 is the national average for English primary schools. This was even the case when I was at school back in 1782. In the United States, middle school is an alternate dimension that exists between elementary school and high school.
See, middle school is actually a really good idea. Like, I think about it and it actually makes sense because, like, when you go from primary school in the UK, which is when you're like 11, to high school, which is when you're like 11 to like 17, 18, people in like sixth form, if there's a sixth form in your school, which there was in mine, it's a weird feeling. Like, there's like pretty much adults there, but there's also like kids. And like, you're obviously one of those kids. It's pretty daunting, I'm not gonna lie. I was like really nervous because you go from primary school being like the big dog, you're sitting on the benches at the back of the assembly hall, like doing singing lessons or whatever, or you just sit in the back of the assembly, just you're the top dog again. But like, you go up to high school and it's like a big change. With this, obviously you go up, but then it's just kids sort of around your age and a few years older, and then you go to like high school. I'm pretty sure. I think it's actually a better system. I don't know why we don't have it in the UK, but I guess it's just because they'd have to build more schools, maybe. I don't know.
School education, this dark underworld of sorcery where teachers become locked in a battle of wits against a hive mind of monsters known as 8th graders. The average class size for departmentalized instruction is about 25, which only adds an extra layer to this already cruel hellscape. In England, it goes like this. The upside down is known generally as secondary school. Mercifully, the average class size is about 22, but while this nightmarish period of education, as with...
Wait, am I just getting lost or something? Middle school. Middle school USA. What grades? So lowest. Okay, here we go. The fuck. I don't want to see UK years. So I guess middle school's like this age, then the next age is this age. I don't fucking know what the fuck. This isn't really what I was looking for, to be honest. So I guess 6 to 8 is like middle school. Now I think I was right. I just think I was getting confused. Yeah, high school. Yeah, we've got 3. In the UK, we don't have that. I mean, there may be a few, but it's not common whatsoever.
14. It doesn't end. The nightmarish period of education, as with the United States, roughly encompasses the age of 11 to 14. It doesn't end there. In England, it drags on for another 2 years, coinciding age-wise with America's freshman and sophomore years of high school, which, by the way, brings us on to this. Ah yes, high school. In the United States, this is a period of education from the ages of about 14 to 18. After freshman and sophomore year comes grade 11 or junior year and grade 12, senior year. This is typically when the students begin their development into humans, but it's also when most students take their SATs, a series of tests to determine readiness for college. These are not to be confused with the English SATs or SATs, which are assessments taken by 7 and 11-year-olds. In England, it is a similar process, but by a different name. And before keyboard warriors like Uncle Toby start writing in all caps that we have high schools in the UK, I know we do. But to keep things simple, that same period of schooling is typically structured like this. Age-wise, the last 2 years of secondary school are to England what freshman and sophomore years are to America. This is when pupils across the country take GCSE tests in all their subjects to determine suitability for further qualifications. Meanwhile, the English age equivalents of junior and senior year take place in what is known as sixth form or college. This is the point in education where we stop wearing uniforms and start dressing like John Travolta. It's also where we study 2 or 3 chosen specialised subjects as part of our A-levels. For me, this was English, history and theatre studies, because that's how you become a YouTube sensation. The results of these tests determine your suitability for university. They're often compared to America's advanced placement exams. But while both help to determine a student's path in higher education, they're not entirely the same thing. That being said, higher education does come with its own differences. In the US, college means something entirely different. It's the general catch-all term for an institution
That's for you. Isn't college in the US like what uni is here? I'm pretty sure.
of higher education. In England, this is referred to as university or uni because everything devolves into slang at some point. Of course, specific institutions in both countries play hard and fast with this rule. See, for example, Harvard University and Imperial College, London. For American students, a bog-standard bachelor's degree takes 4 years to complete, while in England, unless I, somehow skipped a year, which is entirely plausible in hindsight, a bachelor's degree typically lasts 3 years. Upon completion, students in both countries can graduate with honours. The difference, though, is how this is printed on a degree transcript. In England, Bachelor of Arts, or BA, might be followed by the word honours or ons, because see previous comment about slang. In America, they're all about their Latin, so honours are signified by phrases like cum laude, magna cum laude, cumulonimbus, or cactus priculus. Like any good teacher, I've left the best bit until the end of class. It wouldn't be America and England if they weren't separated by a common language. So let's take a rapid fire look at the differences in educational terminology. As we've already seen, you've got grade versus year, but you've also got semester versus term. While America has its students, England has its pupils. Whether or not they attend...
I think students and pupils is like a sort of mixed used word. It's definitely... I feel like it's used. It's been quite a long time since I've been at the school, so I can't really remember, but I feel like we were known as the students when we went into class. I don't know. I think that's a mixed term in the UK.
And elementary school or primary school, high school or college or uni, there's a good chance they'll have to study maths. Or maths.
The big one.
And in England, we don't take tests, we take exams. In England, a rubber erases...
That's another mixed term.
This is a mistake. In America, it prevents one. And speaking of words that have different meaning, it prevents... In England, a rubber erases a mistake. In America, it prevents one. And speaking of words that have different meanings, let's finish today's class and module by talking about 2 words that perennially cause confusion. Public school. In the United States, a public school is one that is publicly funded and free for students to attend. In 2016, more than 70% of students were publicly educated in the US, as opposed to privately educated. In England, a public school is something different. In the late 1800s, the term public was used in the sense of these schools being open to pupils of any locality, denomination, or paternal trade. Basically, anyone whose parents could afford it. So, an English public school is a private school. A publicly funded school, on the other hand, is called a state school, which has nothing to do with state universities in America. It's all confusing, and I've lost my train of thought. Saved by the bell. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining me. Let me know in the comments below if you've attended. Do that at Lost in the...
I had a few stinkers in here. I had a few, mares in this video, to say the least. But let's just see some of the comments to finish it. American teachers, the bell doesn't dismiss you, I do. That's the same as at my school as well, man. 100%. I remember those days, man. When I went to school years ago, a quiz was a small test. A test was a medium test, and an exam was a very large test. I hope that makes sense. A quiz was a small test. A test was a medium test. Yeah, I feel like that's the same for me in the UK. In England, a rubber erases a mistake. In America, it prevents one. High school, this is typically when students begin their development into humans. You win the internet today. You are a blast to listen to. Your diction and facial expressions make my day. Thanks for the chuckles, cheerio. The one thing that stuck with me from the American education is, I can't say that, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. I remember that. That's from I swear that's from Flowers or whatever. Is it? Wait, what is it? Or is it to do with your lungs? Yeah. Yeah. Fucking hell. How did I pass science? Fucking hell. It's a cell. It literally says that. I'm so stupid. I really hope no one got to this point of the video. God damn, I come across as so stupid. I swear I'm not this dumb, I swear. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Yeah, until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.